Call to meeting the May 17th, 2012 Board of Adjustment meeting. Reminder to turn off your cell phones if you have not done so already. Our first order of business is to receive the minutes of the May 3rd, 2012 meeting.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Register your vote. And could I ask you to turn off Jim Allen's? Do we have any continuance requests or withdrawals from staff?
We have one today. Item number 11, case number 13555 is requesting a continuance to June 7th.
Do I have a motion to approve that continuance?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Register your vote. We are continued. Any continuance requests from the public? Hearing none, would you, pardon me, sir, would you approach the microphone?
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Laird. I'm with the firm of Crowe & Dunlevy at 20 North Broadway, Suite 1800, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I am speaking with respect to item 10, case number 13545, about requesting a variance for signage up on Memorial Road. I've talked with staff, Ms. Talley, and also with Mr. Chambliss before this, and we would like to request, based upon our conversations with them, a 2-week continuance for this matter.
All right, we have a continuance request on case 13545 till June the 7th.
So moved.
A motion and a second. The continuance request is approved.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Ready to proceed.
Item number 1, case number 13548, request for use variance of United Production Company for permit to drill an oil gas well located at 11509 North Morgan Road.
Is the applicant present today?
Mr. Chairman, as you know, United Production is a client of mine, and I will have to recuse myself, but I do not see them here today. So you may want to put it at the tail end of the docket. Or
The chair would entertain a motion to move that to the end of the agenda, items 1 and 2.
The chairman would entertain a motion to move it to the end of the agenda. We have a motion.
And this is on both of them, right?
Yes.
Okay.
On cases 1 and 2.
Okay. Oh.
Mr. Allen, when you're hooked up there, we have a motion and are waiting on a second to move items 1 and 2 to the end of the agenda, and Mark is having to recuse himself from this case, so it would be contingent upon your second. I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. Register your vote. Cases 1 and 2 are moved to the end of the agenda of today's meeting.
Item number 3, case number 13554, application for variance and/or special exception of R.C. Taylor Company to drill and complete an oil gas well and/or drill a disposal well located at 16823 North Pennsylvania Avenue.
Good afternoon, members of the board. I'm Wayne Smith here on behalf of R.C. Taylor Company, address 7011 North Robinson. This is a request to obtain a special exception to drill and put into operation a disposal well, and we would don't have any problem with any of the staff requirements. I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
is it oil and gas well or disposal well?
Disposal.
All right, and we're in full compliance with the Oklahoma Corporation Commission?
That application is virtually complete and approved with the OCC. It has not been issued as of today.
Any objections by your neighbors?
None.
I've got a question. I've heard that there's a process now that you can eliminate salt water. Basically stripper type wells. Is that the case, or is that something that's just
There are
oxtail.
chemical processes that are available. They are extraordinarily expensive, yet, in comparison to returning salt water down deep in the ground where it came from. So, best technologies, return it where it came from. The volumes that would be permitted for this particular application would preclude economically the use of those systems.
Thank you.
I'd make a motion to approve the variance, please.
I have a motion and a second to approve the application. Register your votes. You are approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 4, case number 13552, request of James Padoco for a variance to permit a residence encroaching the side yard setback located at 1421 Southwest 131st Terrace.
Your name and address for the record, please.
I'm sorry?
Your name and address for the record.
My name is James Padoka, go by Jim. Address is 1421 Southwest 131st Terrace.
I see that you've got an existing bay window and fireplace that encroach,
That's correct.
and that the residence was built in 1996.
Correct.
How did you find out that it encroached?
I think I had to sign a waiver when I bought the property in 1999. I don't have anything in my documents that show that. I've known it for several years. Just was pointed out to me by my neighbor that it was going to have to be removed, and I started checking in to see what needed to be done.
Okay.
This may be a staff question. Has this been run by the fire department? Basically, the reason for setbacks and stuff is for fire, isn't that correct? I would like to see what the fire department says about this before we actually make a decision. That would be my motion. If you would be willing to wait another 2 weeks, I would like for them to look at this and...
Well, if you could go back to that drawing or the sketch that shows the property, the bay window, the fence of the property actually comes in behind the bay window. So there's a full 5 feet space between my house, the wall of my house, and the property line to my adjoining neighbor, which is what's required by the fire department. On the other side of the house, on the west side of the house, there's 8 feet. And just from my own investigations and measuring, what appears to have happened was the house, when laid onto the lot, was laid 3 feet too far to the east. Because I've got 8 feet on one side and 5 feet on the other, not counting the bay window. If you put the bay window in that and they had moved the house 3 feet to the west, I wouldn't be here today. This was not caught by any inspections, by any builders, by anybody when the house was built. All I'm doing is trying to get the record straight and get the necessary variances so that when I sell the property, everything will be clear.
How far is the wall of your house?
I'm sorry?
How far is the wall of your house from the adjoining house to the east?
I haven't measured that, but it's 2 feet 7 inches from my bay window to the property line, and at least 10 feet from that property line to his house. At least 10. If you can see the picture there, that post is setting directly on the property line as we know it, and he's got a driveway wide enough to handle a car that runs down the side of the house. So
So the 10 feet
there's at least 13 feet.
would be met.
So you're saying that there probably is, there's at least 10 feet between the house next door and the bay window?
At least 12 feet, yes, sir.
At least 12 feet?
Yes, sir.
And it would be required to have 10 feet, okay? if that's the case, I will go ahead and make a motion to approve the variance, but I would also like to see that you bring the staff that measurement, and let's make sure of that measurement. And if it does not measure at least 10 foot, then I'd like for you to come back here in 2 weeks.
Okay. I have measured, but again, it's just me with a tape measure and laying it out and measuring from his house to the property line is 10 feet.
I don't know what we could do if it was less than that, but I still would feel more comfortable if the fire department had looked at this thing. So my motion would be to approve the variance and have him bring back information to the staff that there's at least 10 feet between the bay window and the house next door.
We'll just have someone go out and look at it.
Okay.
So it's a conditional approval that you're moving?
No, if it is, in fact, okay, if we can verify that, he doesn't have to come back.
Right.
If it's less than that, I would like for it to go to the fire department and him come back in 2 weeks.
Okay, so your
Okay.
motion is for approval conditioned on
Yes,
adequate footage?
that's right. 10 foot or greater.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second, and you understand that your variance request is conditioned on at least 10 feet between the farthest point of your bay window and your neighbor's house.
Okay, and how am I supposed to present this to the board? In what
We'll
means?
just send someone out to take a quick measurement.
You're going to send someone out? Okay. Okay,
We'll let you know one way or the other, either way.
okay.
We have a motion and a second. Register your vote. You are approved, sir.
Thank you.
Before we read the next case, I just would like for the applicant for cases 1 and 2 that I see is present now to know that the board has moved those items to the end of the agenda today, but they are still on the agenda. Kathy.
Item number 5, case number 13553, request of MA Architecture for a variance to permit the use of metal siding on 6 temporary classroom buildings located at 6800 South Blackwelder Avenue.
Good afternoon. My name's Don Keene. I'm with MA Plus Architecture. We're here on behalf of Oklahoma City Maps for Kids. And I think you understand. Do you understand the application for variance?
I understand the application for the variance. It's for 6 temporary buildings, and you expect that the buildings will be gone by August of 2013?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the variance.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Register your vote. You are approved, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 6, case number 13557, request of David Sheets for a variance to the minimum lot width located at 12350 Rough Road.
If you would, sir, your name and address for the record.
My name is David Sheets. My address is 10700 Southeast 59th, Oklahoma City.
Want to talk about your application?
What I'm requesting is the variance to the minimum lot width. We're wanting to build a residence back down in there, a single residence. My property is actually 7.57 acres. Rough Road is a 60-foot wide road that dead ends into my property. It's my only means of access to the property. It's landlocked everywhere else. I guess probably before I-240 was put in years back, that was the other access point. Once I-240 was put in, it landlocked it. So that's my only access point. I don't have anything for my neighbors. I've actually talked with 2 of my neighbors on the closest point, Mr. Metcalf and Mr. Collins, and neither one of them had any issues with me building back there. And that's what my request was for the variance. to
And
use my building.
you've had access to the staff report, and you're aware of that you are vulnerable without an easement to issues with that road and issues with potential access to this property.
Yes, sir. I noticed on the staff summary that came out that said there was an issue because it was saying it was a private road. But whenever I bought the property, it's actually county-owned all the way back to my property. And I've talked to the county about it, but the county just, they said they don't own it. But when I went to the county assessors and I pulled out all the warranty deeds to the property, the road, it shows county-owned. It was signed off by Shirley Darrell back in 1985.
I think this is an issue where you want to be sure of where you stand, because regardless of the action that we take today, you could end up, with the access to your property in jeopardy, I think.
And I have. And I actually talked to both the two, I guess it would be both neighbors that would have any concern where my property drives past their property. Neither one had an issue with it.
And I'm not sure I would depend on the goodwill that exists between you today, so that it would extend into the future. Their properties may pass to other owners or to their children, and that goodwill may not, go to. So, be forewarned that I think this is a potential issue that you really need to make sure you know where you stand.
Okay, I will.
Other board members, questions?
I'd make a motion to approve the variance, just with the understanding that you understand you may have further complications with neighbors or subsequent buyers of the land.
I understand that.
Second.
Motion and a second. Register your vote. You are approved, sir.
Thank you.
Item number 7, case number 13558, request of Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust for a variance to the minimum access aisle width located at 5520 East Hefner Road.
Hello, my name is Crystal Kowalik. I'm a project engineer with the Utilities Department. Basically, we are under construction of the Witcher Pump Station to do two things: replace all the pumps, but we're also building a berm completely around the facility, because in 2010, when we had the high rains, we actually flooded the lift station there, and it's very vital to our system. What we're requesting is a variance. We have an existing 16-foot driveway approach. We basically are raising the walls around it, and to reduce fill, it'll be 22 feet at the road, but we're requesting to be able to narrow it down to the existing 16-foot. The only access going in and out of the plant is the staff that runs the plant there.
And the drive will only be utilized by city employees, is that correct?
It's actually a contracting firm for the city, but yes.
I'd make a motion to approve the variance.
Second.
A motion and a second. Register your vote. You are approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 8, case number 13560, request of Premier Hospitality Group 2 for a variance to the requirement that the Riverfront Design Committee provide recommendation on actions proposed by other boards, committees, and commissions with respect to the effect of such actions upon the design district, and a variance to the 2-year expiration of a certificate of approval from the Riverfront Design Committee located at 4333 Southwest 15th Street.
If you would, your name and address for the record.
My name is Steve Landes with the Land Run Group, or Land Run Engineering, representing Dr. Patel or the Premier Hospitality Group on this item.
Why don't you fill us in on the history of this CA and the expiration of the CA and what brings us here today?
Well, there's a little bit of a history behind it. Just to get to the bottom line on what had happened, we had originally built the first 2 hotels, which are west of this property, which is a Holiday Inn Express, a 6-story, as well as a Staybridge Inn. At the same time we were doing that, that was prior to the Riverfront Authority being in place. And we actually adjusted the site to actually meet Riverfront Authority requirements. The third hotel, which is the Hampton Inn, which is ready for development, was actually developed and designed at that time through the Riverfront Authority requirements. One of the requirements of the Riverfront Authority at the time was actually a glitch in the way they had written their rules, which actually required a maximum of 15 feet separation between property lines. We actually worked with the city or the Scenic River Authority to actually create this little small lot to actually meet their code requirements and everything we needed to at the time to make that work. In order to do that, we actually had to plat the entire property, as well as with cross-access agreements, et cetera, to make it all work. That was actually done. The hotel at that time, and everything was approved, but it was approved pending approval of a final plat for that property. Now came the problem. One, the economy went to a little haywire at that same time, about 2009 when all this was occurring. And the second item that really came about was on the two existing hotels, one of the contractors filed a lien on one of the two properties. The first two hotels were on a meets and bounds description, which was the entire property. Well, we could not file the plat based off the requirements of that lien until that got resolved. That was resolved basically early last fall. The easiest way to do it on a legal basis was to split this plat into two pieces, which now we have an approved Premier 2 hospitality group, which includes this lot with the hotel that's being proposed, as well as the next lot for a future convention center. As well, the two existing hotels to the east have now been platted under Premier Group because that whole lien was resolved since then. So now everything legally was taken care of. In the fall, when this was taken care of, we actually were approved for a building permit. And actually, we worked with the city and everything, and we were actually informed we could start our foundation, which is the first stage of this foundation, of this permit approval. But it was late fall, and we decided that, or Dr. Patel or whoever had decided that because of the weather, hard winters that we typically have, we had the last couple of years, that he wanted to wait till early spring to actually take care of this problem. So, or to begin construction, excuse me. Well, okay, so what we did was, even though we talked to Harvey at the time, we just put it all on hold, not knowing that there was an issue with needing to get an extension, which is pretty much granted for $100 for that Scenic River overlay permit, just to do an extension. So winter came by, we've actually started, and we're prepared for construction as of right now. In fact, they'd like to break ground next week if possible. The problem that actually occurred, we came back to get our foundation permit, or that first phase, like we'd been working on in the fall, and we'd found out at that point that at the same time we'd been working with them last fall, the permit had expired, and we were basically unaware that there was an extension, that we needed to have gotten an extension at that time. Now, of course, the most easy remedy of this right here comes about, just go ahead and resubmit and go back through the process again, which we'd actually considered doing. But the real problem that occurs here is franchise agreements and franchises end after a certain amount of time. And as of I think, next week or the last week, either the beginning of April or the next month, June, excuse me, this hotel, this entire project is no longer viable. It's dead.
The owner was cutting it pretty close then by deciding to postpone.
Yeah, that's basically true, but what it was at the time, honestly, we had told him and everybody else that we are approved, we have our permits, basically everything in place, just not obtained right now. We just didn't pick them up. But we'd actually talked with everybody, and everything was basically approved and ready to go. And as I understand it, it's still that same way. In fact, when this whole issue came about, we'd gone down to Harvey. Harvey was the permit person, was actually in the process of putting this together, and we got an email that basically brought us up on this issue. That said, oops, we got a problem. At the same time we were talking about last time, we just found out that this permit had expired.
And your application actually is for you have two different requests within your application, am I correct?
As I understand, I guess that's correct.
Why don't you clarify for the board what those are? One of them is the extension and the reinstatement of the CA.
Yes, that's all we need is an extension of the reinstatement of the CA, and then we'll go through whatever procedures is required. Bottom line, if this hotel doesn't get broken, ground doesn't break on it pretty quickly, or by the end of this month, basically it's the end of these projects.
What's the other request in your application?
Honestly, I'm not 100% aware. I may have to ask JJ on that one.
Any hearing by other boards and commissions and committees, it's required that if they're located within the Scenic River Overlay District, that they go to the Riverfront Design Committee first for a recommendation and non-binding comments if they choose to comment on an application. So he's requesting a variance to have to go before them to get a comment on this extension.
Okay. And honestly, we've already gone through that committee. We've actually already been approved by that committee. If we would still go back and need some additional adjustments based off current, if that's something the board recommends, if that needs to occur to go into approval.
My understanding is this board does not have the authority, and I don't think we would be presumptuous enough to waive that requirement. Am I correct?
We've had conversations with staff, and in this particular application, they didn't have any objection, since they've seen it once before.
And one of our concerns, quite frankly, is, you're asking for an extension of a CA that's expired, and if there have been any changes to what you proposed to them.
This hotel and all the facilities, everything we have sitting right there is exactly what was approved in 2009 by that same board. We have not made an adjustment one to anything.
Just for purposes of the record, the Riverfront Design Committee.
Yes, sir.
You've appeared in front of them. They've approved your previous application.
Yes.
They know you're here today, and they are not in opposition.
As I understand, is that correct?
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of my question. When this kind of a variance application is filed, staff notifies, I guess, Pat Downs, is he still manager, or somebody at the...
Yeah.
So Riverfront knows he's here.
Yeah, they're all aware of this.
And the Riverfront Design Committee staff and the planning department, all aware of it.
I pretty much, if I am correct in my assumptions here, the issue is a procedural issue, time period, and really I don't think there's any problem other than in order to bring it back in front of that committee, it's another 30 to 60 days down the road, and if we are required to wait 60 days, there's no reason to. It's gone. I mean, that's the holdup.
The way we looked at it, this gets him to the same end, just gets him there in a more timely fashion.
Yeah.
Do we have any protests? If not, I'll move approval.
Second.
And we understand that what we are approving is an extension or a reinstatement, whatever the proper language is, of the CA only. That is the extent of what we are.
Reinstatement, extension, and based on the fact that the committee had noticed.
Yeah. That's my motion.
We all clear on the motion? Okay. We have a motion, and do I have a second? Yes, have a second. Register your vote. You are approved, sir.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate y'all's time.
Thank you.
Item number 9, case number 13556, request of First Baptist Church Newalla for a variance to permit an accessory sign exceeding the maximum height limit located at 5817 South Harrow Road.
Your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Keith Ives, and I'm a representative of First Baptist Church of Newalla at 5817 South Harrow Road. This is Pastor Paul Brady, who's the pastor of the church.
Thank you.
And as stated, we are, the church is offset a block and a half west of Harrow Road, which is the busiest road. So the church a year ago decided they wanted to put up a sign so that more people knew how to get to their church, and also a message center so that they could put, messages of church events and, other Sunday school events and other things for the community. And actually a permit was issued and then rescinded because they realized that it was in a different zoning to have that. So the sign was already installed, the electrical work was already done. Then the city came out to do to turn the electric on and said, oops, you're in AA zoning. We're going to have to rescind this. The church needs the sign. If you put it at the 8-foot height level, you won't be able to see the sign because it's on a grade going uphill from south to north. By the time you'd see the sign, you'd be right beside it if it was at the 8-foot height.
So the sign is there?
It's already installed, yes, and we've had no feedback from the neighbors, any complaints or anything like that, but we're just requesting that they're allowed to have the sign so that it's visible to the public and they know how to get to the church. Across the street, there's 40-foot signs, there's, larger signs all along that. It's just the AA zoning that was for that particular site, which is their new parking lot entrance to the church.
So because of the topography, you need this larger sign or it will not be seen. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
The church is actually on 59th Street, isn't it?
That's
And you're
correct.
putting the sign back about, looks like 300 or 400, 500 feet, something like that, north of
The
59th.
corner lot, which is actually, has an eviction notice served on it because that house is not their property. The property that they've actually installed the sign is their parking lot entrance, so it's on their property. And yes, it is, I think it's 363 feet, just to be exact, back from Southeast 59th Street, but it's closer to Harrow Road because that's the busiest road. A lot of people come and say, where's your church? We can't find it because of just that, a block and a half distance. So the church wanted a sign out there to better let the local traffic know that they were there and what their intentions were to spread the word.
So is that a street just south of the sign, immediately south of the sign?
Southeast 59th? Oh, just a no, sir, that's not a street. That is a vacated lot.
Okay. Odd place for a sign. And the sign's already there.
Yes, sir. When we applied for the permit, they issued a permit, and then the electrician, they issued another electrical permit, and then when they came out to inspect the electrical, they said, oops, this is in AA zoning, so they rescinded the permit, said you'll need to get a variance to allow that height.
So was there a permit to put the sign in there initially?
Initially there was, and I don't understand how it got rescinded. The person that issued the permit is no longer in that department with the company, so we got transferred to another person. I don't know. I really don't understand how that got done, because the electrician, when he applied for his permit, got that permit issued. Then they came out to inspect it. That's when they said, oops. And
who actually is putting the sign up? Are you doing the sign?
No, I sold the sign to the church, and we're a manufacturer, not an installer, and City Sign Company out of Stillwater, Oklahoma installed the sign, and they get permits after permits after permits from the city of Oklahoma City. But like I said, there's mostly, forget about the issuance of the permit, we're just asking for a variance to go at the height that it's installed at, which is 19 feet 6 inches.
Is there anyone here in opposition today to the
No.
sign? Have you heard from any of your neighbors opposing the
None.
sign? I'd move to approve the variance based upon the unique topography.
May I ask one more question before we proceed? Is there any development on that parcel where the sign is, or is it just grassland? And
It's just grassland. Eventually, that will become our property. We're going to put all of our new buildings will be on that side, and there'll be an entrance right there into that.
so you own that land?
Yes, we own 18 acres on the north side.
Oh, okay.
And so the church is presently right there just off of Southeast 59th, but as you grow and add new buildings, they will not be at that location. They will be...
We'll be
On the Harrow Road.
on the Harrow Road will be the main entrance into the property. Looks like an upside-down T if you look at the layout there. And so it comes in 300 or so feet wide on the Harrow Road, and then it comes down and it makes the bottom part of the T. That's where the bulk of the property is. That's where our Family Ministry Center is already located.
Is the bottom part of that an LED sign?
Yes.
And you do understand the requirements on an LED? Okay.
We have a motion on the floor.
Oh, I'll second it. I'm okay.
Have a motion and a second. Register your vote. You are approved.
Thank you very much.
Item number 1, case number 13548, request for use variance of United Production Company for permit to drill an oil gas well located at 11509 North Morgan Road.
Chairman,
one more
I think
question.
we have another issue
What
on
do
the
we-
previous application.
Oh, I
Go ahead.
just wanted to ask one more question. What do we do to proceed from here? Since the sign's already done, do we go to the city and get a permit The
You
actual...
need to talk to the permit and see if they can reinstate the permit that was revoked.
Okay.
And
just talk to Mark over there.
yeah, you can tell him what happened here today. If he needs to talk
It
to
was
me,
approved.
talk to me
Okay,
later this
and
afternoon.
You're J.J.
Yeah.
Shambles.
Kathy, go ahead and read the case, and I think Mr. Stonesuffer is going to recuse himself. You already did read the case. It's balls in your court. You are recused. And
This is a client of the firm's, and I'd asked and notified the board that I'm recusing myself at this time.
Chairman Austin, members of the board, David Mira for United Production Company, applicant. My name, David Mira, M-E-A-R-A, 1001 Northwest 139th Street Parkway, Edmond, Oklahoma, 73013. This application is to drill the shaded number 1-23 in the southeast quarter of Section 2313 North 5 West, Canadian County, Oklahoma. We appeared here 2 weeks ago. We have gotten all objections worked out with the party to the north, and we would seek your approval of our application.
Did we get any protests, new or anybody on this one?
Sir, you're set to speak on the next case, I believe. So I'm not aware that there are any protesters. The woman that was here in protest of this particular application last week, I don't see present today, and our understanding from the applicant is that you have visited with her and
She was an attorney. That was Jane Robertson, and there was a miscommunication between she and her client, and we have that worked out.
that there are no existing issues, no protests?
No.
Okay.
I'll move approval.
Have a motion to approve?
Second.
Register your vote. You are approved.
Thank you.
Item number 2, case number 13549, request for use variance of United Production Company for permit to drill an oil gas well located at 10505 West Hefner Road.
Chairman Austin, members of the board, once again, David Mira for the applicant, United Production Company. This is an application of United Production to drill the Starry number 1-23 in the southwest quarter of Section 2313 North 5 West, Canadian County. The southwest quarter is a spacing unit for the development of oil and gas, 160 acres. Underneath this particular quarter section, there are 55 mineral owners, most of whom have leased to United Production. We've had our location heard and approved by the Oklahoma Corporation Commission. We have spent quite a bit of time working with the surface owner, Mr. Starry, who is here, to locate this well so that we minimize our impact on the parties, surface owners in this section. We are somewhat limited, as you'll note. There is a power line to the east of us that runs northeast-southwest. There's also a pond there, and then, of course, we have buildings and structures to the north and to the west. We would ask that the board approve our application, and we believe it'll be in the interest of the mineral owners in developing their rights.
Thank you. I'd like to excuse you and call on Mr. Starry, please. He's requested to speak in support of the application. If you would, just when you get to the microphone, give us your name and address, and then go ahead and say what you'd like to say.
My name is William R. Starry. I live at 10900 North Sarah Road.
Okay.
And 73099 is my... Okay, why I'm here is just to give, I'm pleased with the situation that is going on here. Now, I have a neighbor that needs to speak to you. Me, I'm satisfied. I appreciate all the oil company has done to get things straightened around out there.
And as we said at our last meeting, you know, our job is to balance his right to pursue his business interest and your right as a homeowner, and we want to make sure that, you know, any concerns that you might have are addressed properly, and it sounds like they have been.
That's right. I own the property that it is.
Thank you, Mr. Starry. Our next request to speak is from Darren Rice.
Hello, my name is Darren Rice, and I live at 10910 North Sarah Road. And I have some pictures here I'd like to pass out.
Pass them to staff. And as a reminder, we talked 2 weeks ago, and I'm sure that you've had a chance to talk to the applicant, and I guess there's still outstanding issues between you?
Yes, sir.
Could you just identify, and let's go ahead and
I
cut
had
to
an
the chase.
appraiser come out, and they said if they put their road in as they proposing to along my property line, that it would probably devalue my property between 5 and 10% with the oil well back there. I have no problem with the oil well back there. I have a problem with where they're routing the road to get in and out of there.
And why don't you give us an orientation to what you presented us? I see a blue marker and I see a pink marker.
The pink line is the one that they're proposing to bring in there now. My property is the closest one there with the shop and the house right there in the middle.
Your property is directly west of the
Right, my
proposed
property is
site, isn't
directly
it?
west.
Mr. Starry is southwest of that location,
Yes.
am I correct?
Mm-hmm. And it's just going to cause me a problem, and that I would want the oil company and Mr. Story to have instead of me, because they're the ones getting the money from it, and I don't think it should take away from my value to make them money.
Are there any other issues between you and the applicant right now?
No, sir.
Okay. Let me excuse you then and ask the applicant to address that concern.
While I appreciate Mr. Rice's position, we worked at length with both Mr. Starry and Walter Starry to gain access to this location. It is coming in from an existing entrance off of Hefner Road to the south and coming up next to the square that says Water Well and then going into the location. At its closest point, it will be approximately 200 feet from Mr. Rice's home. The entrance is over 300 feet to the south. I really can't move it, or I say we can't really move it further to the west because of the requests of the Starrys, and frankly, that goes off. It has a grade to the due east, and so that is simply a better location.
You're saying the road where you would propose to place the road is already existing, at least as far north as the Water Well?
Well, the entrance is, and then it's a dirt road, an ag road on top of the ground. You may be able to see that on the color.
Does the road exist any farther north than the Water Well? Or is it basically just a dirt road off?
Yeah, it just winds back in there.
Okay.
Of course, it'll be an all-weather gravel road.
And that road would be in existence for the life of the well, am I correct?
Yes, it would be. Now, it would have a flurry of activity during the drilling and completion phase of the well, but once the well has been completed, maximum would probably be 1 to 2 trips a day on that property. While I have no reason to dispute Mr. Rice as far as his valuation of the property, he currently has a shop on the east side of the property, has a separate driveway to access that shop, and his home is less than 100 feet from Sarah Road, which is a very heavily traveled road, and I can't see how our roadway would impact his value to that extent.
Thank you. Mr. Rice, would you come back?
I've got a question of the attorney. Have you seen the lines that he's got drawn on here, the pink line and the green line?
No, I
come up and get a. And I assume the pink line is your proposal for the road.
Not exactly. Our proposal swings by directly next to the white building and then curves into the well site. And the well site will be about 250 feet wide and 300 foot long, so it'll really kind of curve into the base end of it. The line where he's drawing the green line would not be feasible as
Why would the
good
green
access.
line not be feasible?
Because it's the grade of the road is going down at a relatively rapid rate, and we'd have to build that up to get back up onto the location. On top of that, the Starrys, who own the property that we're building the road across, would like us to take this access route rather than...
Do they own both parts of the land
Yes,
where you're
they
trying?
own parts there to the west. It's different family members, but yes.
Could you just take your pencil and mark up the pink line and correct the orientation of the road, and then leave it there at the podium, and we'll ask Mr. Rice to come back. Thank you. You'll see the corrected orientation of the road, so that it appears to me from his description that from the water well, it probably curves more to the east and then into the site.
Well, you might...
And I'll tell you, I understand your concerns as a homeowner, and I'm sympathetic to them, but it sounds to me like, they are being quite considerate and going out of their way to address, the concerns of the Starrys and your concerns, frankly.
Well, with all due respect, what he's saying about the road, I have the grade of the road. There's already another driveway down that they use now. So this driveway that he is talking about hasn't been used in years, and there's not an existing road there. It curves off immediately after it comes off Hefner Road. So this, as you can see on this plan, that all this other land is undeveloped and it wouldn't be by my house if they would choose to take that route. Otherwise, I would ask you to deny their variance unless they can be more considerate without and devaluing my property. And I have pictures of that road that he's claiming that's a steep grade here for you all, if you'd like to see those.
And these photographs are of the elevation at the location where you got the blue or the green line on your...
Right, yeah, it's very minimal. Like I say, there's already a driveway there that's been used a lot more than the other driveway. But what I would think is, if they're going to, if they want to, and I can understand they want to do business. I'm not trying to keep them from doing business. I'm just trying to keep the impact as, to me, as least as possible financially.
And explain in these photographs, I'm looking at a blacktop road. What am I looking at? Just give me an orientation on your...
Right there is the driveway is at the start of that picture to the left, if you're looking at it. And the other driveway is probably 150 or 200 feet farther down that picture.
So you're saying kind of at the crest of the hill where I look left and I see a roadway, I'm looking at where you're telling me is already existing, where you've drawn this blue line?
Right.
And your question is, why can't they use that?
Why can't they use the other driveway that's already existing too? He's talking about the grade of the road is extreme. Well, it's not, because they use that road now.
fair question. Let's ask the applicant to answer that question. In fairness to you, let's provide you with one of the photographs that we have so that you can.
Well, first and foremost, let me address one issue I think that is very important to remember. We are working with the parties that own the surface to this property, and this is their choice as far as the entrance. It actually, if you look at the map, places the entrance to the property closer to Mr. Starry's home than the alternate location. I don't think this gives a completely fair visual of the entrance. If you will look on, you'll see the drainage line coming out from the bottom of that pond, and that it dips down into that drainage zone. So we still, after having worked with the owners, after having looked at the topography, we still believe that this entrance is the one to use, and it's the one we've agreed upon and settled with the surface owners.
Board members, do we have other questions?
Is it physically possible to make the Blue Line other road work?
Oh, I think it probably would be physically possible with more dirt work and so forth and so on. But again, we'd be doing something that the surface owner doesn't want us to do.
You know, Ben's a surface owner, prefers it this way. Looks like to me economically it'd be better the other way. But if Ben's the surface owner prepared, is prepared to accept it this way, I think that's the way we ought to go with it. And with that, I would approve the exception.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the application. Register your vote. The application is approved.
Thank you.
Okay. That concludes our business today. I would entertain a motion. Do we need to invite Mr. Stonecipher back in for the conclusion of the meeting? Or he is left. Okay. Would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second. Mr. Allen?
Second. Sorry.
We are adjourned.